Hey everyone, I wanted to post this because I feel like it's needed and I feel like somebody needs to say it. There's a lot of stigma and ignorance surrounding mental health. 1 in 3 people suffer with depression and anxiety. 1 in 3 people. I happen to be one of them. The result of mine, or the reason for mine, is a very abusive home I went through in foster care. Before them, I used to be fine. I didn't really have that many problems until I met them and had to go through hell with them. So that that's where mine comes from. I have PTSD, anxiety, and depression from it. It's getting better. It's a lot better than it used to be. But it's still a long road to recovery for me because there's so many triggers. There's so many triggers for me that I don't even know what all of them are. So a lot of the time when I recognize that I'm about to have a panic attack or I'm about to snap at somebody or I'm about to get really upset for no reason, I'm like, wait a second, is this a trigger or is this just me being me? It's hard to tell the difference between my personality and the mental health because I don't want the mental health to be who I am. And I know it's not. But some days, the distinction between those two things is very difficult to figure out. So, what I came here to say is for those of you out there who don't suffer from mental health, and for those of you out there especially who are guilty of telling someone with mental health to just grow up and get over it, which you should not do ever. What do you think we're trying to do? You think we want to live this way? That's why we're popping pills. That's why we're going to see the doctor. That's why we're going to therapy. Like, we don't want to live like that. But you can't tell us to just get over it. It doesn't happen like overnight or in a week. But what I came here to say is imagine for a second, picture this. You're in a hospital, your wife/girlfriend, whatever you want to make it, just had a miscarriage, or the baby died in the childbirth. Imagine that for a second. Imagine how painful that would feel. Imagine how upset you would be. You just lost your kid. They're gone. You're never going to get to see them. You're never going to get to spend birthdays with them. You're never going to have anything with them because they're gone. They're in heaven now. Imagine that for a second. Imagine how devastated you would feel. Imagine how upset you would be and how sad you would be and the inevitable depression that you're going to sink into from this. Imagine that too, because it will happen. Something like that people don't just walk away from. That affects everybody. Something like that would affect you no matter who you are. So imagine that for a second. And imagine that a bunch of strangers and a bunch of your friends even came up to you and had the nerve to say to you, "What's the big deal? Why are you so upset? You can always make another kid and have another one." Like, imagine if they came up to you and said something like that. How angry would you be? How upset would you be? How much would you want to slap them across the face? I'm just saying. But imagine that for a second. Imagine how painful that would be to hear from one of your friends, or even just from a complete stranger off the street who knows nothing about you. Imagine that for a second. Let it sink in. Let you feel that pain. Feel that overwhelming anger that you would feel in that situation. Let that fill you up for a second. That's how it feels when you tell somebody with mental health to just grow up and get over it. Mental health exists. It all exists. It's not just in our heads. It's not. I mean, it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? But mine isn't even my fault. It was caused by somebody else that I had no control over. And now because of them, you know, I don't know who I would be this on this day if I hadn't gone through that. I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot about how not to parent your children. I learned all the things not to do to my children when I have them. But just watch what you say because your words have an impact. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but if you encounter someone who has severe anxiety or depression, don't ever tell them to just get over it because when I say this, I'm not kidding. For some people, that's what pushes them over the edge to kill themselves. Sometimes it's that one sentence from a complete stranger that just pushes them over the edge and then they're gone before you know it. Your words do matter. What you say does matter, especially to people like us. Watch what you say. Do your research first before you open your mouth to any of us. Do your research. Try to at least understand us a little bit. I know it's hard. For those of you out there who live with somebody with anxiety and depression, I know it's hard, but you have to bear with them because people with anxiety and depression have a lot of fear and we have a lot of trust issues, especially people like me when the anxiety and depression was brought on by an outside force, and the PTSD. PTSD doesn't just happen to soldiers, by the way. I went through an abusive foster home and I have PTSD from it. I have certain triggers that I avoid because I don't want to think about it. And when I do go into panic mode, I hate it. I hate being like that. But it's nothing I can do about it. I don't really want to take medication, because I've taken so many pills in my life already that I'm kind of sick of it, and I'm just trying to learn how to become mentally strong again and how to cope with it. And lately I've been doing a really good job because I joined a bunch of groups on Facebook that openly talk about anxiety and depression, and I can go on there and I can get advice and I can say whatever I'm feeling and nobody will judge me for it. Like, it's the best thing ever. And you just got to be careful with what you say. You can't just say the first thing that comes to your mind. There's a filter between your mouth. There's a filter before your mouth, I should say, and it's called your brain. Use it. Okay? Don't be so insensitive. Knock it off. Your best friend might have depression and you have no clue. You would have no clue. Because most of us tend to hide it from other people, especially those close to us, because we don't want to be judged and we don't want you to abandon us. Because we lean on you a lot more than you think. Best friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, parents, sisters, brothers, everybody. Teachers, counselors, cousins, aunts, uncles. We lean on you more than you think. We do. Especially those close to us. The ones we talk to every day. The ones we text and call and talk to all the time. We rely on you a lot more than you think. So watch what you say. All of you. Close friends, strangers, all of you. Just watch what you say. Okay? Sometimes words do speak louder than actions. While you might just be standing there like a statue, the words coming out of your mouth are going to have an impact. That's all there is to it. You have to watch what you say. You can't just tell us to get over it because that's not going to happen. And on top of that, telling us to get over it, like, what do you think we're already trying to do? Like, you think we want to live like this? You think we want to constantly be questioning everything and not being able to trust anybody? You think we want to live like this? Because we don't. But people who are not willing to be patient and keep their hurtful words to themselves make that a lot harder for us. So always think before you speak to somebody who has a mental disorder. Don't just tell them to get over it. Don't just tell them, what's the big deal? Just pop a pill, you'll be fine. No, it's way more complex than that. Because here's the thing. I took a psychology class in high school, and I hope all of you out there get the chance to take a psychology class one day and actually learn how this thing works, this thing between our ears, this complex, amazing, yet so complex thing, the human brain. When you go through something intense like trauma or abuse or whatever, it actually has been scientifically proven that it changes the way your brain works. When I went through the abuse, I got brainwashed. They used their words and their actions, their abusive actions, to brainwash me into thinking certain things about myself that are obviously not true. But I was 12, I was young, I was naive, I was very easily influenced, so I listened to them. And I actually believed everything they said about me. and none of it was good. But because of them, my brain doesn't work the same way that it would if I hadn't gone through that. So I'm learning how to cope. I'm learning what works and what doesn't. I'm learning what my triggers are. I'm learning everything that I can about it because I don't really want to take a pill, and I'm I might start looking into counseling or therapy. I'm not sure yet because I've been doing really well lately, and I'm trying to keep the positivity going in my life right now. I'm trying not to let anything get me down, but at the same time, I have days where I don't want to leave the house. I have days where I just feel angry and upset for no reason at all. It's a perfectly good day, and yet inside my head, it's like the complete opposite of a good day. So, just be careful with your words. Support the people around you. Don't tear them down. Because, like I said, for some people with mental disorders, what you say to them could literally mean life or death. You have to be careful what you say. You have to. You have no choice in that matter. You have to be careful what you say to people like us. Because our brains, because they're, rewired and our chemistry is different because of the anxiety and depression, we take things differently. We hear things differently. Like a simple argument with your significant other, if you have a mental disorder, it can feel like the end of the freaking world when you have an argument with your significant other. You're like, oh my god, I screwed up. They're gonna break up with me. They're gonna leave me. They're never gonna want to see me again. Like, you'll go through that a lot. We all do. I mean, I go through that whenever I argue with my boyfriend, or if I argue with one of my best friends, or if I argue with anyone in my family. I'm like, oh my god, what did I just do? Like, I panic. It's what we do. Panicking is our go-to reaction, and we're trying to work on reprogramming ourselves to where instead of panic, we try to reason and use logic. But it would make our journeys to recovery a lot easier if people would watch what they say. Words can hurt a lot more than you think. So please, if you take anything away from this video today, please take away the lesson that you need to watch what you say. Filter your words. Instead of putting us down and telling us to get over it, for example, you could say, hey, if you ever need someone to just vent to, just call me, or text me, just tell us you're here for us. That's all we want. We just want to know that we're not alone and that if we need somebody there for us, that it's not going to bother them and it's not going to annoy them. Because that's just how we are. Our brains work very differently. If you get the chance, do some research. Compare a normal human brain to a human brain with anxiety and depression in it. You will see some differences, some distinct differences. It's been proven scientifically that mental disorders rewire your brain to think a different way. It is possible, I believe, I haven't done my research on this yet, but I think it's possible, and this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to reprogram my brain to not have anxiety and to not have depression. I'm trying to reprogram my brain to be happier and to not take things and panic all the time. I'm trying to teach my brain to do that. And I still have a long way to go, but I'm on a good road to recovery right now. So, like I said, I'll wrap this up, but like I said, just if you take anything away from this at all, watch what you say to other people, especially those with mental disorders. Because like I said, it could literally mean life or death for them. Because suicidal thoughts are one of the symptoms of being depressed and anxious and PTSD and all those other ones. Any mental disorder deserves the rightful attention and treatment that it needs. Don't shut your friends out when they have disorders. Help them. Don't just tell them to get over it. That's not okay.